Thank you, Ms. Crowley. We'll now do a round of 5-minute questions, and as I said, more if people want to go back. Senator Perdue, let me ask your thoughts on the no limits partnership between Russia and China. There's been a lot made of this, and of course it's concerning, and it needs to be watched. I've kind of thought of this when I watched them make that announcement. It kind of falls under the adage the old adage of there's no honor among thieves. You know, these two are not natural allies by any stretch of the imagination. And what we know about both of them is they'll throw anybody under the bus for their own good. What do you make of this, and how do you see this going forward?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I think this is primarily about trade between those two and also about the geopolitical position of China right now. About 1/3 of Russia's total revenue comes from China. China imports 73% of its oil. Iran, you haven't mentioned Iran, but I'll throw this in the mix too because it's a similar conversation. 90% of Iran's oil goes to China. Now that money goes through Russia. We now know how they use that money. A lot of that money goes through Iran. We know how they're using that money. They're the largest perpetrator of terrorism in the world. About 80% of the dual-use equipment right now and technology in Russia comes from China. The oil that's being researched and drilled in the Arctic right now between these two is very troubling, and that's why China wants to become an Arctic power. What China and Russia are doing right now is untenable relative to China's involvement in supporting the war in Ukraine, supporting Iran and its support of terrorism around the world. As ambassador, if I'm confirmed, my role over there will be to execute U.S. policy in order to make sure the Chinese understand what our commitments are and what we are going to stand for.
Well, I appreciate that. Certainly a challenge. There's no question about
Yes, sir.
that. I want to ask you about a specific item that's maybe drilling a little deeper than what we usually do here, and that is during the last administration, U.S. officials participated in events organized by the United Front Work Department. That, of course, is the Chinese Communist Party's key coordinating body, and they carry out influence operations around inside and outside of China. And the U.S. participated in some of those events. What's your view on continued participation in Chinese Communist Party events?
Mr. Chairman, this is a long answer, and I apologize. I would
Give us the executive summary.
I would never filibuster you, sir. But I will say this. There was a book written in 1998 by two colonels in China. They studied the war in Iraq in '91, and they came up with a strategy that basically today is being executed by President Xi Jinping. If you look at that strategy, one of the things that is a major tenet in their strategy is to communicate their propaganda through all the barriers into countries they want to influence. They're being successful with that today. To the ranking member's point earlier, this is something that I believe that President Trump realizes. One of the things I'm going to do, if confirmed as ambassador, will be to stand up and try to inform people in the United States about the danger of it. It's very subliminal, Mr. Chairman, and they are masters at it. They do not attack you frontally. This goes back to Sun Tzu and Confucius. Their strategy they will never tell you what they're going to do unless they've decided that you don't have the wherewithal and the will to resist them. We have got to get China out of our power grid, our ports, and our personal lives, Mr. Chairman. And the way they're in there is through propaganda in a major way.
Thank you. I appreciate that. The universities are a real problem there too, as far as they're getting into them. And I agree with you that they do this in a very opaque fashion where people don't even know what's happening. So I appreciate that. Ms. Crowley, the job you have is an important job. Obviously, by the very fact that you take that job with the rank of ambassador. We all know that you don't see much of the protocol people unless something goes upside down, and then it's a problem. I'm assuming that you will have people around you that are detailed people, because that's going to be critically important. Senator Shaheen and I were, when we first got here, we remember the state, I think it was the first state dinner that President Obama did, and we had a couple people get in there that weren't on the list. And, it it was a wreck to end all wrecks. As a result of that, we had to stand in line an hour every time we went up there. But tell me, you mentioned there were 7 divisions. You don't have to go into all of them. Tell me generally how that's broken down and how.
Yes. Well, thank you very much for the question, Mr. Chairman. There are 7 divisions that work together in harmony on protocol-related programs. So visits overseas, visits of foreign dignitaries to the United States, making sure that they have everything they need to facilitate a conducive environment for the most successful diplomacy on both sides. But we are really here in the Office of Chief of Protocol. If I'm confirmed, I will ensure this, that we are here to serve the President, support the President, his vision, and his agenda. The office has visits. Obviously, President Trump has had a number of chiefs of state already visit. A number of bilats have already occurred. So visits overseas, that particular aspect. The historic Blair House welcomes visiting dignitaries and provides a 5-star hotel experience for them at the invitation of the President of the United States. And Blair House is a wonderful asset for any administration to have to welcome guests to the United States. Ceremonials oversees ceremonial duties for the President, the Vice President, and the Secretary of State. Diplomatic affairs oversees relations with the diplomatic corps, and if confirmed, I look forward to enriching that relationship because the Chief of Protocol is the most critical liaison between the administration and the diplomatic corps. Diplomatic affairs oversees those relationships and handles any issues that may come up with the diplomatic corps. Diplomatic partnerships is all about making sure that the diplomatic corps has the access and information they need to do their jobs well. And then, of course, you have management, which is the day-to-day management of the Office of Chief of Protocol, and major events, which oversees, as in the definition, oversees major events, including summits like the G7, the G20, NATO summits, and so on.
Big job. Senator Shaheen.
Thank you.